How's it going?
It's going well. Today, I have to have a big cup of tea, not a small cup of tea. Uh, yeah, and it's actually, I think, this is what they call builder's tea. So, as you know, I'm a big fan of English breakfast tea. I drink it pretty much. It's like the only thing I drink.
Mhm.
And I remember learning about builder's tea and what builder's tea is. It's also kind of known as builder's brew, but what builder's tea is, it's the British English colloquial term for, frankly, a strong cup of tea. And today I need a very strong cup of tea. And there's some interesting history on this. So do you feel like a little
Yeah.
builder education? Okay. So builder's tea is commonly drunk by laborers. So, if you're working on wherever, construction or whatnot, and it's time for your tea break, right? 4 o'clock tea time, you'll have what's called builder's tea. And so the reason why it's called builder's tea is because it's typically brewed in a mug, as opposed to loose leaf teas in a teapot. And then there's other things, like you add a small amount of milk. You could do it, and there's particulars, right? Small amount of milk, whether you're stirring that in or letting it just sit and infuse. And then, of course, you should add some sugar. And so builder's tea is what I love. And PG Tips is very good for builder's tea. So I have a very strong cup of tea here in front of me today. So a little education lesson on tea.
Thank you. As you know, I'm not a strong tea drinker. I'm learning on this extravaganza, this journey into tea and snippets. I'm exploring teas. Today I have an apple cinnamon tea, and I just realized, though, it doesn't have caffeine in it. So
Yes.
I made a mistake, but that's okay. It's delicious. I will just need to make a vat of coffee after this.
There you go. There you go. Yes. Caffeine is just stick the IV line of caffeine right into the vein. Yeah, no.
Right from the pot. Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Cool. Well, so today we're talking ABM. We kind of gave everybody, I think, a little preview that this was what we were going to talk about on our last episode. And I wanted to kind of talk about, intent data and kind of how to build and prioritize your ABM accounts, and then how to scale all of the personalization that we know works super well in getting accounts to engage back with us. In theory, it's really nice to have this nice, list of ways to get in touch with people and to get them to respond to you by, looking into their LinkedIns and looking into their company news. And there's all these places where you can get all this information in addition to what they're actually researching, which all these great tools give us that information. But in actuality, getting sales to sit down and write custom email tracks for every single person they're trying to get a hold of is it's unreasonable to expect, and it's impossible to actually do. And then from a marketing perspective, it's really tough to build that kind of personalization into marketing campaigns. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some ways to scale those concepts. But first, I thought it'd be fun if we talked about some, we're both kind of, buyers, right? Like I buy software, you buy software. We interact with vendors, we get sold to all the time. So what are some experiences you've had with like really good custom outreach and then some really bad custom outreach?
Yeah, for sure. Because there's good and there's bad. And it's really interesting because, you have to imagine that, if you agree with what Topo writes, right, more than 80% of B2B organizations are operating some form of account-based marketing. So you have to imagine that the emails that we are receiving is with maybe some account-based marketing strategy behind it.
Yeah.
And so now it gets to the point of, okay, well, if the emails are driven through an account-based marketing strategy, then how well are they really personalizing? And oh boy, it runs the gamut. I can tell you what I like, and then I can tell you what I don't like. For me, I'm always very curious about, show me ways that I can continue to drive value within my marketing organization. So if you come at me with some data-driven value statements or I've been able to increase pipeline by X, or I saw a return of Y, or 5 ways that you can improve. So I love the data-driven value ones. I love the how you can improve ones. And then obviously, if you want to throw a little bit of creativity in it, I'm totally cool with that. What I honestly, the number one thing that really bothers me is also the fact that people aren't looking up who is actually actively still working at your company. So when you receive emails from former employees that were at your company and they haven't done their due diligence to see that they've clearly moved on to another company, why are you still wasting that? And I can tell that there's not that rigor that's being placed in their ABM. So the two things I love is data driven and how you can improve. But what about yourself? What are some things that you like, and then we can get to what we don't like.
Yeah, I mean, what I like, I'm a little selfish. I'm a little millennial. I like praise. So I love when people reach out to me and they've seen something that, we either did as Conversica, like a campaign that we did, or something that I did, like if I spoke on something or I posted something or I blogged or something like that, and they picked that up and they said, hey, I read this thing that you posted. I thought it was great. Here are some, thoughts that I had about what you said. I'll probably respond usually, even if I'm not super interested, just because I don't know, maybe I'm selfish, but that kind of stuff works really well. I think, especially with probably sales and marketing people, just because we're after fame and fortune. But, yeah, I mean, is that super scalable? I don't know how scalable it is for every single person that you want to reach out to go figure out what their life is and then try to craft an email around it. But I mean, it works really well, I think, at least from my perspective.
Look, I mean, we all love self-praise. I mean, flattery gets you everywhere, right? In this world. And so for sure. And also it demonstrates that they've taken the time, right?
Yeah.
To really look, not just at the basics, but they've looked at your LinkedIn or your social profile and said, hey, here's something that the company, not just the person, but also the company is doing that's interesting. Okay, so I guess we got to get to the part of what turns you off, right? We know what turns you on, what turns you off. I mean, I think the thing that I just want to tell everybody to stop doing is please stop guilting me into opening your email. Like, don't get offended that I haven't responded back yet, even though you've maybe had 3 or 4 touches of your best effort, and then now you're like offended. So it's kind of like, and now you're writing me an email like, please tell me I'm not wasting my time. And reaching out to you, and you're like, I've got other things I got to worry about. Like, your feelings right now is not one of them. So
there's a threshold where it's like, it starts out really, personalized and positive, and then there's like a turning point that happens if you don't respond fast enough, or you're kind of not engaging, where it's like, I've reached out 3 times and you haven't responded, and you're like, yeah, sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, totally. You're like sitting there, you're kind of going, yeah, and so
I'm so sorry. So yeah, I mean, I think everybody's kind of doing their best, right? And a lot of this stuff is in some sort of like pre-built cadence, right? Like a lot of the times where, sales and marketing alike are kind of building these cadences or building these nurture tracks, and they're kind of just trying to anticipate what they think will be running through somebody's head, or what they think somebody will have been engaging with at that point in their email cycle, right? Like their email outreach cadence. And it's really hard to anticipate that, I think, with people. And so I think there's two different ways to follow up. There's the way that I'm talking about, where it's, go out, stalk the person on the internet, figure out what makes them tick, and then write them super customized outreach that speaks directly to that. And that probably is going to work really well. That's not scalable for all of the accounts you're trying to reach out to. So then you do kind of the next best, which is kind of what we're talking about, is a little bit annoying, which is you do like the persona based or the really data driven outreach up front. And then you kind of run out of steam halfway through, because you're not really sure what actually anybody is thinking at that point in their cadence. There's nothing that's reading anybody's like digital body language anymore. You're just kind of spraying and praying. But I think there's a place for both of those things. I think that the number one thing, though, to consider is that any account you're trying to reach out to, whether it's your white glove, creme de la creme account that is so hot and spicy, you've gone in, you've built the account super custom, you've got all the people, their blood type, like you're going after it. And then there's the accounts that maybe are just like kind of keep the lights on accounts that, we've used our magical software tools to tell us these people are probably interested, but they're not ready to buy right now. Rather than dump those people into a marketing retargeting campaign or a nurture or a bland sales outreach track, I think it's still really important to have a human like outreach strategy for even those accounts that maybe aren't super spicy hot. But then the question becomes, how do you do that on like a big scale?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we see time and time again when it comes to driving higher engagements is there's something to be said with the right combination of personalization and persistence,
Yeah.
right? And if you can and have personalized, persistent, but always keeping it polite and always keeping it in the best interest of your prospect or the lead or the party that you're trying to engage with, then you're always going to come out ahead. Even if they may not be in market now and they may not respond to you, they're going to always have a positive, memorable, and positive impression of you, at least or of your company name. I think that's really important. I think part of what we've seen is um, always put yourself in the shoes of the customer you're trying to reach out to, right? What is, if you truly understand their pain points and you truly understand what they want, and you can make every touch point kind of be relatable in that manner, you're gonna come out on top eventually over time, because either it's they're gonna fall in a couple of back categories of either they truly don't need what it is that you want, which then you've got to take a look at your ICP and say, hey, am I targeting the right people?
Yeah.
Or they do really need what you want, but maybe now is just not the right time, whether it's timing or budget, whatnot. And so on that last two, then you want to continue to still keep them warm, as you said, but how do you do it at scale?
Yeah.
It's one thing to be keeping somebody warm if you have a small database and you have enough human capital to help you do that. But if you don't, and you've got a large database, and especially now when we're kind of into this whole new world that we're operating in, where timing fluctuations have shifted. Like the data you had that you used about the timing of your buyer cycle and how long your buyer cycle took is totally been thrown up into the air, because we have this pandemic, and then that has had significant economic impact on people's buying cycles. And
Yeah.
so that's changed. So yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's certain areas where if you were to structure it, there's certain areas where yes, you have to have super white glove approach that is important for those buyers that are in market and actively evaluating you. Then you have to have this if you have you can certainly have a tech touch approach, taking something from the customer success side of the house. You can definitely apply a tech touch approach to marketing, but you don't have to sacrifice personalization and politeness to do it.
Yeah. I think one of the things, obviously we drink our own Kool-Aid at Conversica and we use our own software, obviously. And one of the things that I had to even be convinced of a little bit from my demand gen background was that you could have sales outreach and like that kind of the more hard ass type outreach running at the same time you're doing like your nurture campaigns. And my old school brain was like, no, that's just right for email burnout. We're going to bombard everyone with all this, and they're going to hate us, and it's going to be terrible. And what I've found by being forced to do it this way is that actually it works really well, because the idea is like you're, from a marketing perspective, putting really relevant content in front of people, and you're getting the interaction that you can kind of measure from they clicked on this or they engaged with this is probably something they're interested in. And then on the flip side, you've got the actual sales outreach that's saying, hey, talk to me. Do you want to talk to me? Let's talk, right? Nobody's ever going to respond to an HTML email, but they're definitely going to respond to some personal outreach from a human. And so what we find is that actually when we nurture people in both ways at the same time, we do get a way higher response rate to the like sales outreach type emails than I would have if I certainly wouldn't see that kind of response rate to HTML Marketo emails, for example, but definitely wouldn't see that response rate if I just had the SDRs reaching out to those folks like on their own without any marketing support. So I think that's probably my best advice after having experienced it kind of both ways, is for the lower tier accounts, continue to nurture them and do those retargeting campaigns that we all know and love as demand gen people, but also open yourself up and open up the sales team to also be reaching out to those folks at the same time, and advise them to use the information that they are getting from marketing and those emails that we're sending to say, oh, they're interested in X topic because they engaged with this marketing stuff, and kind of customize your outreach that way too.
Yeah, totally. And if the sales capacity is not capable of keeping up with that kind of cadence, there's always an approach you can use that incorporates technology to do it. Obviously, we do it in house here at Conversica using our own intelligent virtual assistants, but it's something that can be considered, because at the end of the day, and it's a debate that's gone on forever, is how can you ensure that all the leads, or just even all the contacts that you have, are truly getting worked in a proper fashion. And sometimes it's just not possible to do it with the current state. But yeah, no, I think that's totally true. And we've seen, just even just even in the past 6 months, just tremendous response and engagement. I mean, if you think about how the engagement rates and what we call those leads that actually turn into meetings, it's pretty impressive, even though we've been going through COVID.
Yeah.
To see just how, if you again combine those three things, if you hit that persistence with that politeness and that personalization, you're going to get a response. And knowing something is better than knowing nothing, even if it's check back later, or not ready yet.
Totally cool. Well, I think that sort of is like the net, right? Keep it as personalized and polite and persistent as possible. So many P's. But also prioritize, another P, the accounts that really do deserve like the research and the real SDR, or the real salesperson research and time and energy, and then try to keep the lights on all the other accounts by still being super personalized and persistent, just not quite in a way that's going to completely overwhelm your sales team and make them sad. So anyway, I'm gonna try to finish this tea, and also start a pot of coffee and try to actually wake up, since I accidentally went the caffeine-free route. And you have fun with your builder's tea for the rest of the morning. We'll talk later today, and I'll see how much your eyes are buzzing. And yeah, we'll just catch each other on the next episode.
Yeah, sounds great. Hey, always fun, and enjoy your tea, and keep on brewing.
All right, sounds good.